Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. It's time for a just a what's spinning. Take a look at some of the stuff I've been spinning, going to and from work on my long commute. First, in the background, one of the newer thrash bands that I've really gotten into, Ultraviolence, Deflect the Flow. This is their second album. One that I highly recommend. Just really good traditional thrash. They actually have a brand new album that just came out. I haven't run across it yet. Unfortunately, they haven't released anything on vinyl yet. So the only way to get their albums so far is going to be on CD, or I'm sure it's available for download if you go to their Bandcamp or whatever. But they do have a new album coming out, and I do hope to get that and share that with you guys too. Next up, I went ahead and pulled this one out. This is from Stone Groove Records. Really dig this band. They're from here in this area. Here in the Atlanta area. This is Crawl, Old Wood and Broken Dreams. Just really good doom metal. This is Randy Michaud's label, Stone Groove Records. You'll know him from Scott Waters, Trog from Scott Waters videos. And I think I just saw that they're going to be doing or releasing another one pretty soon here. But again, this is one of the labels, one of the bands on his label. Next up, these next two, obviously everybody knows these two albums. These are special editions, deluxe expanded editions of these two albums. And if you can run across these, I highly recommend picking them up. They're pretty hard to find though. When did they come out? 2005 is when they were released. I've been on the search for these for a while, and I finally found two of them. But first up, we have Ace of Spades. And what's really special is the B-sides. The B-sides have, the second disc is full of all the B-sides. There's alternative takes of all the different songs. There's demo takes. This one's got 4 tracks from the BBC. Just really killer 2 CD sets. And again, I've been on the lookout for these for a while. And then I also picked up Bomber. And then again, we got the 7-inch B-sides, alternate versions of Bomber, Sharpshooter, Stone Dead Forever, and then 5 live songs. Just really killer though. 2 amazing Motorhead albums. And then just keeping on the Motorhead train, Aftershock, I ran across the Tour Edition, which disc 1 is the actual album. Aftershock is kind of hard to see. And then B is the Best of the West Coast Tour. The cool thing about the Best of the West Coast Tour is it's not all their popular songs. I mean, Ace of Spades is on here, Overkill is on here, but you've also got Dr. Rock, Metropolis, Damage Case, Going to Brazil. Just a really killer 2 CD set. Next up, Dokken. Been kind of on a Dokken kick, like just a George Lynch kick, and I think I have a little bit more George Lynch to show further down. But this is One Night Live, and this is acoustic, and man, it's really, really good. I was really blown away by how much I like this. But you've got all of their big hits: Into the Fire, Unchain the Night, The Maze, Tooth and Nail, I'll Remember, Alone Again in My Dreams. I mean, it's all their hits. They do an amazing job doing these acoustic, and it's a really good alternate take on these classic songs. This is one that I had seen before. I didn't realize it was an acoustic set, but I finally found, or I ran across it for like $2, and I couldn't pass up on a Dokken album for $2 and grabbed it. So again, highly recommend that one. This one initially disappointed me. And I was really upset by that. This was a favorite band of mine, and I absolutely love this lineup. So when this lineup reformed, I was super stoked. I bought this as soon as it came out, and then was just completely disappointed with the first listen. On the second listen, I did like it quite a bit better, and by the third listen, I was kind of getting into it. Still ultimately not what I was looking for. Still a good album, not a great album. This is No Cross, No Crown from Corrosion of Conformity. which is the return of Pepper Keenan to the band on vocals. I've heard a lot of people say that this is the best COC since Blind, or the best COC since Deliverance. I don't think that that's true. Although I prefer the Pepper Keenan era and the early thrash era of Corrosion Conformity to their later, the last few albums that they've had. The last few albums that they've had have been really good albums. This one, I like the songwriting, I like the songs. My biggest issue is Pepper Keenan. He's screaming throughout the album, and he's got a really good singing voice. There's only 1 or 2 tracks where he sings, and you know, I was just disappointed. Like I said, it's a good album. It's definitely not the best thing that they've released since Deliverance, or definitely not since Blind. I mean, they've had some great albums. Wise Blood was great. The follow-up, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, was really good. Still, again, a good album. I know a lot of people have been really psyched on this and have really been talking it up. Ultimately, I just think it's a good album. Next up, a great album. This one I ran across at one of my local stores. I didn't know that this was coming out. I wish I would have found it on vinyl. I will eventually buy it on vinyl. But this is a Used Future from The Sword. These guys get classified as stoner rock, which they definitely have that stoner sludgy sound, but they don't have the stoner topics that you get from the other stoner rock bands. You know, it's more of, actually to me, it's more of like a 70s hard rock style that they have than that stoner rock. But I really dug this album. If you've liked anything that The Swords put out, you're really going to dig this. Next up, I've talked about this band a bunch of times. This is one of my all-time favorite bands, especially their albums from the 80s. When this album came out, I really wasn't interested. Their last few albums just haven't been great. I finally ran across this. It was sealed, and I got it for like $3. And I was really pleasantly surprised. This is Saints of Los Angeles from Motley Crue. It's actually a really, really good album. It's definitely a throwback to the 80s. You definitely hear a little bit of Dr. Feelgood, a little bit of Girls, 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 a little bit of all of that in this album. They've definitely gone back to more of the sleaze and that 80s style of metal that they were best at. Face Down in the Dirt, I thought was kind of a lame song, and I know that's one of the bigger tracks off of it. Other than that, though, I mean, again, this was a great album. I'm glad I finally got around to picking it up and listening to it, because this is kind of a return to form for the band, in my opinion. Unfortunately, you know, this was the end. I do hear rumors that they're recording stuff for Motley Crue again. So we'll see what pans out from that. But if you're an 80s Motley Crue fan, this one is definitely worth checking out. Next up, this album completely blew me away. Everything on here is good. And I love the stuff that he decided to cover from this, or on this album. But this is all cover songs. It's George Lynch, and it's Furious George. And it's not your typical cover songs. There are a couple, you know, all Along the Watchtower, something that people cover all the time. Let's see what else there was. One Way or Another, a lot of people have covered. But then you go to Space Station number 5, Stormbringer, Blood of the Sun, Bridge of Sighs. Just really, really killer covers. And then who is the vocalist on here? It's going to drive me nuts. He was a vocalist. He's been in a bunch of bands. Kelly Keeling. Kelly Keeling is one of those guys I can't believe. I just don't think he's found the right band. He's one of the best lead singers out there. His voice is amazing. He just hasn't found that right band to turn him into a superstar. He's done some of the George Lynch solo stuff. He's done Lynch Mob. He's been in a bunch of different bands, but just none of them that have taken it to that next level. But his vocals are amazing. He sounds killer on here. And this is one that I highly recommend checking out. Next up, this has been one of the most played albums of the last couple weeks. I've only had it for about a month. This is a what would I say? This is definitely a super group, but the real standout here is Ronnie Monroe, who was one of the oh my God, what's the name of the band? I'm picturing their album covers, and I can't. Metal Church. He was one of the Metal Church lead singers. Just really killer metal album. Peacemaker is the name of the band, and you've got Concrete and Terror, and this is on Brutal Planet Records. Absolutely phenomenal album. I've been playing this pretty much non-stop. This may very well be on my end of year list, right there. Next up, this is from what I understand, they're a local band. I haven't found much information. The guy at the music store said that he knew one of the people in the band. Really good, just straight up metal though. When I first saw it, the singer it's a female singer. I thought it was going to be that operatic style, and it's not. It's just really good, straight up heavy metal. And the name of the band is Vainglory. Like I said, not a lot of information about them out there. I don't think that they have any other releases, but if you run across this, it's definitely worth picking up, and I really did enjoy listening to this one. Next up, just another one I pulled out. I hadn't listened to this in quite some time. Just Transgression from Fear Factory. This next one, I had never heard this. This is a band that I know, a band that I love. I believe it was Scott that sent me this. Actually, I know it was Scott that sent me this. This is, I believe, the third album from Believer, Dimensions. And they had done, they kind of added, they added some violins and stuff. What all did they have in here? Regardless, they kind of went an avant-garde route with this. But it's still thrash at the same time. And it's a really good juxtaposition between the two sounds. And the more I listen to this, the more I like it. Now, I knew Believer definitely from their first album, but basically from their first two albums. I had never heard this before. And when I first put it in, I wasn't sure what I was listening to. But like I said, with each listen, I've liked this more and more. Now, there is a 4-part song at the end. I think part 2 or part 3 of it, they could have left out. Other than that, this is just a really, really killer album that I really enjoyed. This is another one that I'm not sure how to review this. Again, one of my all-time favorite bands. Now they have had a new singer for a while, and I've talked about this. I talked about this in one of my last videos. I just saw them live not too long ago. But this is Rainier Fog from Alice in Chains. I've actually only seen this on vinyl in the stores a couple times, and every time I run across it, the sleeve is damaged or the jacket's damaged, and I don't buy it. So I ran across this used for like $5 and grabbed it. So here's the deal. Song to song, I like all the songs on this album. As a whole, I think it's a good album. The issue that this band is always going to have is they're never going to achieve the greatness that they initially had because they don't have Lane Staley. And I'm not saying William DuVall is a bad singer. William DuVall is a good, competent singer. The problem is there's no great vocals on this entire album. Almost the entire album is harmonization between William and oh my God, I can't fucking think of anybody's names today. But Jerry Cantrell, my God, I don't know what's. Sorry, it's a holiday. My brain is not working. William DuVall and Jerry Cantrell are harmonizing almost the entire album. The other downside, there's no, like I said, I like every song on here. I do like the album. There's not a single standout track. There's nothing vocally that makes me go back to like the vocals were amazing on this, or this track was amazing. They're all just really good Alice in Chains tracks. And unfortunately, I think Alice in Chains is getting to the point where everything is starting to sound the same. Their last few albums, I've liked them all. They all sound the same. without laying there to give those the crazy over-the-top vocals that really make a lot of those songs special. You know, I just don't know where they're going to go. They need to change something, though. Again, I mean, they can keep pumping these out, and they're going to keep going gold, and they're going to make decent money. But I don't see them ever being a great band again, unfortunately, which is sad because Jerry Cantrell is a great writer, an amazing guitar player. It's a good album. If you're an Alice in Chains fan, you're going to like it. If you're not an Alice in Chains fan, don't waste your time buying it. Or if you're new to Alice in Chains, this is not the album to go to. Next up, a little bit of Wasp. I've got this on vinyl multiple times. I've got this on CD, I think, multiple times. But I had never seen this particular version, and I had to get it. It's kind of a, I guess you'd call it a book version, a digibook maybe. I don't think that it's a digibook, but really, really good packaging here. It's a 2-disc with a really nice history here of the album and of the band. Then disc 2 has Animal. It's basically got all the A-sides and B-sides from their singles, and then also a live version of On Your Knees and a live version of Hellion. Just a really cool, really nice packaging. That's why I bought it. Next up, Down, Diary of a Mad Band. This is Europe in the Year of 6. Whatever. It's good. It's not great. What it really comes down to is just Phil Anselmo. By this time, I think this was shot in Europe in early summer 2006. By this time, Anselmo's voice had already started to suffer because of the drugs and the alcohol. It's a really good show. It's not great. I would rather listen to the studio albums. But still, you know, if you're a Down fan, it's still definitely worth having. The band sounds really good. I did really enjoy listening to this. The downside, again, is just Phil Anselmo. Speaking of Lane Staley from Alice in Chains, I pulled this out. This is one of my all-time favorite albums right here, Mad Season. Every time I run across this in stores, I buy it. I've sent this album as VCLT probably half a dozen times. This is the best album of the 90s in my opinion. I love everything about it. Next up, Wendigo. Okay, so this is a band I used to play with. Not that I was in the band when I did shows. We did shows with these guys pretty regularly. Wendigo. When I knew the band, it was Wendigo Psychosis. They were a local Phoenix band, mixed hardcore with metal. Just a really good band from, I guess, 93, 94 to 98, 99 when they split up. I love seeing these guys live. I went to all of their album releases. I believe I've got both of their demos. Who Can You Trust was one of them, and Strange Ways Prison was another. And actually, Who Can You Trust? Oh no, that was not here. It was Bad Things. Bad Things was one of the songs off of Strange Ways Prison. It did make it onto this album. It's one of my favorite songs from the band. Unfortunately, the band got signed to Pavement Records. They cut this album, which was produced by Gilby Clarke, and then they fell apart right after that. This CD doesn't pop up much. Highly recommend grabbing it if you run across it. Like I said, if you like that mid-90s mix of hardcore mixed with metal, you're going to dig this. Wendigo. So this is one I just recently ran across, and I kind of dug it. I didn't know what to expect. You know, this kind of screams of straight up heavy metal or maybe power metal. Then you see the back, and this kind of screams of operatic or, yeah, I guess operatic metal. It's kind of a weird hybrid. So it is traditional heavy metal, but they kind of mix in 80s synth. And it sounds really weird, that mix, but I really dug it. I don't know if they've released anything else. This is, like I said, this is the only album I've seen. This is from 2015. I'll definitely check out some more of their stuff. The vocalist is really good. It's not the operatic over the top. It's really good, just straight up metal. But like I said, they mix this 80s synth to it, but not in a cheesy way. It just comes out sounding really good. So Battle Beast. Next up, a little bit of Doom from Place of Skulls. I love that name. I don't remember who was in here. There's somebody in this band. Let's see if I can... You got Victor Griffin, that's who it is. This is one of the Victor Griffin projects. Really killer doom metal though. Really dug this. Definitely recommend it. If you're into any kind of doom metal, Place of Skulls is definitely the way to go. Like I said, I've always loved that name. Golgotha, Place of Skulls, either of those. I just think are really, really cool band names. And then last but not least, a little bit of traditional death metal. I've shown this band. I've got all 3 of their albums. The reason I bought this one is because this is a 2-disc set that comes with all of their demos as well, which I didn't have any. Metanoia is a just straight up early death metal, thrash-based death. This is In Darkness or in Light, their debut. And again, it's 2 CDs. The first CD is In Darkness and Light, and then their most current demo, followed by the 2 early demos. And the demos are just as good as everything that they've released on their 3 albums. This is a band that they only had 1 song that I didn't like that I'm not going to get into. But of all the stuff they've released, it's all been just really killer. So it's Metanoia on Row Records. Highly recommend checking them out. I believe there was one more. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. So it looks like that'll be at VC. Again, check these guys out. Ultraviolence. This is their 2nd album. Again, both their albums I've heard are amazing. Take care, everybody. See you soon.